All right, it is 16 minutes after the hour, second hour of the Friday, August 2nd, Morning Joy, 17th week in Ordinary Time. I'm Dave Palmer. Keith Downey is going to be back on Monday morning, and really excited, as I mentioned, to introduce you to our next guest. One way or the other, you have been affected by his work. I'm sure you have participated in a 40 Days for Life, or maybe the prayers that were offered up for 40 Days for Life have affected you one way or another. And so we all, I think, owe a great debt of gratitude to David and all the folks that he has worked with. He is the founder and former CEO of the global 40 Days for Life movement, and is also what we're going to be talking about this morning, the host of Reviving America Summit. 25 plus Christ-centered leaders reveal a 5-week roadmap for renewing faith, family, life, liberty, and leadership. It's a free online series. It began, I believe, on Monday of this week and goes all the way through August 30th. And so they're going to be introducing new interviews, new segments all the time. It's located online at revivingamericasummit.com, revivingamericasummit.com. David Bereit, good morning. Thanks for being with the show today.
Hey, Dave, thank you so much for having me. And it's great to be back together after you and I both spoke at the Catholic Men's Conference in the North Dallas area, and to be here on Morning Joy. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, very much. I love your set, by the way, too. It's a very. I'm looking on the social media, and it looks so cool. It looks very professional where you're sitting. So, anyways,
well, thank you.
I know you've probably done thousands of interviews about 40 Days for Life, and as I mentioned in the intro, thanks for your work and founding that amazing effort that continues to this day. How did this whole Reviving America Summit come about? I was on the website yesterday, and I was like, wow, they got this person. Wow, this person. Oh, this person. This. I mean, it's a who's who in Catholic media and pro-life work, and it's amazing that you've brought all these people together. So what was the genesis of this?
That's a great question. When I was at the tail end of my season leading 40 Days for Life, I started to feel this sense that we were treating a symptom of a deeper root cause. And as I was traveling all across the country and around the world, and I was meeting with people of faith and conscience, I just kept hearing this sense of almost on the verge of despair and powerlessness and hopelessness, as people were saying, I'm distressed at the direction our culture's headed. I'm worried for my children, for future generations. And so I just began really praying about this, but also trying to say, what are the causes that lead to this symptom of abortion and other social ills that we experience? And what I felt as I started digging into this was ultimately this all stems from, first and foremost, of a breakdown of faith. As we see a decline in religious faith, particularly Catholic Christianity, we see the culture heading in the wrong direction. But then that also leads to the breakdown of the family, as we see marriages falling apart, people delaying getting married. We see attempts to undermine and redefine marriage and family. And then that all leads to the devaluing of human life, abortion and euthanasia and other attacks against the dignity of the human person. And also I was seeing the erosion of liberties around us and just looking around saying, where are the virtuous holy leaders that we need to guide us through this time? And so as I prayed about it, I started talking to friends, many of whom are leaders and change makers in their own space. We all started saying, what if we all gathered together and said, let's take these key issues, faith and family and life and liberty and leadership, and let's bring hope to these areas. And let's take people who are really driving change in this arena, in this specific space, and then unpack from them the lessons that each of us could start to apply to bring about transformation in our own lives, our families, our congregations, our communities, and collectively, could this create a ripple effect of change in our country? So that was the genesis, and we put together this Reviving America Summit. It's a 5-week free online series. It started just this week, and every session is available from when it's released throughout the entire 5-week summit. And it is an amazing who's who of real credible leaders and experts and change makers who are bringing about transformation in our culture, telling you exactly how you can be a part of fixing the problems that we're facing in our culture before it's too late.
Yeah, very nice. I'm on the site right now, and it's really amazing. There's a picture on the front page of the website of all the contributors, and I recognize so many of these people. Deacon Harold Sivers, Bishop Michael Siss from the Diocese of San Angelo is involved in this. Of course, yes. You and Abby Johnson and Curtis Martin and Dr. Ray Grandy. How did you gather this many people together, and what's kind of the common thread?
Yeah, the common thread is, when I was thinking and praying through this, I started to say, okay, the topic of faith, who are some real leaders that are experts in this arena that might be good at sharing their expertise with others? And I mostly went to people that I've been blessed to get to meet and get to know over my years of 20 plus years on the front lines of the cultural struggles, particularly in the pro-life movement. And so Dr. Scott Hahn was instrumental in my own journey of conversion into the Catholic Church. So I reached out to Dr. Hahn, Dan Demite, who runs Damascus camps in Ohio, and I'd met him on a shuttle when we had both spoken at the Focus Seek conference. And I was blown away by his passion and zeal for souls and his entrepreneurial spirit. People like Curtis Martin, I've worked closely with Focus, and Jeff Cavins, who I heard speak at a conference, and I said, the message he gave about how to share the gospel in a simple way, oh my goodness. And I asked Jeff, I said, would you share this with a larger audience? And then some of the speakers, like the kickoff speaker was Father John Ricardo from Acts 29. I didn't previously know Father John, but a friend of mine who runs conferences for Focus said he's one of the best at sharing the gospel message. So I reached out and he said, absolutely. So Dave, the thing that's amazing is every one of these speakers agreed to do this for free. They're doing it because they believe that this is a critical moment for our nation, for our culture, and they want to help and empower each and every one of us to bring about the change that we need. So they all agreed. They're doing it for free. And every session, one per day, we go deep into their area of expertise. So, for example, today, Curtis Martin is taking us deep in how do you not only reach people with the gospel, but how do you turn ordinary believers into extraordinary disciple makers who can help to multiply the faith? And how do we ignite a movement of faith? And that's what he's done with Fellowship at Catholic University students. So he's going deep on that and unpacking the entire process that Focus has used and what they've seen from the beginning of time since Jesus walked on the earth of how we create that kind of growth in the church we saw way back in the book of Acts. So all of these speakers agreed to do it for free. I asked them all, bring your A game, give me your very, very best. And also make this super accessible, give us practical action steps that we can apply to take what you've learned, your decades of experience, and bring it to bear in our lives and in helping to revive our communities, our families, and ultimately, collectively, our nation.
David Bereit is my guest here on Morning Joy. It's 23 minutes after the hour. He is known, of course, as the founder of 40 Days for Life, now hosting Reviving America Summit. Go to revivingamericasummit.com and you can see exactly what he's talking about already this week. Father John Ricardo, Dr. Scott Hahn, Dan Demite, Jeff Cavins, and today Curtis Martin. And I love how you have it formatted, as you mentioned, David, to the week one, Awakening Faith. And then if people watch this week's, next week they go into the next theme, which is strengthening the family, right? So
yes.
Is it important to kind of watch them all sequentially, or are they all kind of standalone, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, it was all designed very strategically where we took it from A to Z, basically a step-by-step process. The way I thought of this is if I was on my deathbed and I had a chance to talk to my children and people I loved about the most important lessons of how to live a rich, rewarding, and impactful life, what would I share and in what order? And ultimately, it begins with our faith, our relationship with Jesus Christ, and living that and sharing that. But then for most of us who are called to our vocation of marriage and family, it's our primary way we live out our faith. So that's why marriage and family is next. Then it's how do we protect life? How do we advance liberty? And then how do we lead the change? Because all of us are called in some way, shape, or fashion to be a sphere, to bring influence into the sphere in which God has called us. So, if somebody wants to get the most out of it, sure, go through them all in order. But if somebody says, you know what, I'm called to the single life, or my daughter is a religious sister, she's probably not going to be as interested in strengthening marriage and purposeful parenting. So go into whatever sessions are most relevant to you, but have this it's a masterclass essentially of cultural renewal. And dive into what you want, when you want. And you may say, hey, I'm going to be unavailable on Tuesday or Thursday. That's fine. Those sessions will be available throughout the entire 5 weeks. So go watch and or listen to whichever ones are relevant to you. If you've got the ability, I think you'll be absolutely blown away and blessed by going through it all in the order it's presented. If you don't have that time and you just say, I just need to dip into what's going to be most relevant to where I'm at in my life right now, do that. It's there for you. It's meant to be available on demand to help bless you and to help bring change about in your life and around you.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody, we only have a few minutes left in the radio segment of Morning Joy, but David, 2 minutes, Tim is saying. David's going to stay with us in the after show, so please go to YouTube. That's where most of the conversation happens, on YouTube. We're also on Facebook and X and a few other platforms as well. But I want to ask David, because everything's a little bit more informal in the after show, about because he's a convert to the Catholic faith. I'd love to know about that. I believe you know about your family and your kids, and get to know a little bit more personally about David, and maybe the origins of 40 Days for Life. We'll have lots of things to talk about. David, I'm curious, because the one bishop, at least as I'm looking through the list that you have, is Bishop Mike Siss, and he's, of course, the bishop of the Diocese of San Angelo, and that's where the Guadalupe Radio Network is based, in that diocese in Midland.
Yes.
How did you connect with Bishop Mike Siss, and why is he a part of this?
You know, Bishop Mike was my pastor. When Margaret and I moved back from the Dallas area to College Station, he was the new pastor of the St. Mary's Catholic Center, and we just absolutely loved him. And we have followed in his journey as he went to serve the Diocese of Austin, and then eventually was elevated to bishop in San Angelo. And when I was thinking of an example of virtuous holy leadership, there was nobody I could think of better than Bishop Mike. I love that man. He is an incredible, humble, selfless, Christ-centered leader, and I wanted him to finish us strong, to give us leadership lessons on how we can leave a legacy of faith for future generations. So that's how he came to be a part of it.
All right. Yeah, he is a great man. All right, David, the music's going to start here in just a moment, and that means we got to exit the radio part of this interview. But give us the nuts and bolts. If people want to get involved in this and start watching these videos, what do they need to do?
Go to revivingamericasummit.com. Absolutely free, revivingamericasummit.com. Just enter your name and email address, and you'll get participation details. You'll get a schedule. You can go back and see the sessions that have been already released, and you'll be updated each day as a new session is released. So revivingamericasummit.com. Join us. Let's transform America before it's too late.
All right, revivingamericasummit.com. David Bereit is going to stay for the after show, and Tim is so good. He says, just tell people, search Morning Joy Radio on YouTube, and you can watch the after show. I hope we have hundreds of people that do just that, because the conversation is going to continue with David Bereit right after this. And we'll talk more about revivingamericasummit.com. I hope you can participate in that. Thank you, David, for the radio portion of this interview. Thank you all for joining us, and it's been a pleasure being the host. Keith Downey will return Monday morning, 6 o'clock Central Time, as the regular host to this show. God bless you. Have a great rest of your Friday.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.